We're on now. I think.
Hit the button before we start talking more.
Calling this special board meeting to order to vote on finalizing the 2025 budget as well as accepting a car donation. Ms. Meeker, will you call the roll?
Sure thing. Ms. Boucher.
Here.
Ms. Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Cotton is absent. Ms. Hastings.
Here.
Ms. Higgins.
Here.
Mr. Richards.
Here.
Ms. Robinson.
Here.
Ms. Walsh.
Here.
And I am here. We have a quorum.
I will turn it over to Mr. Dunn.
Okay. As mentioned, the two agenda items that we have is acceptance of gifts under policy 214, finalizing the 25 budget, public comment, and then we'll ask you to, we have some proposed motions asking you to vote on the budget and accepting of the gifts. So first thing, donation, under policy 214, anything over $5,000 the board needs to accept. So there were two CRTC students that competed in the Ford ACE competition, which I have Ford Automotive Career Exploration Program. And this was last year, and it was a Pembroke and a Bow student. And both of those students received a scholarship to college and were gifted automotive tools. But however, the grand prize for the competition was awarded to CRTC, which was a 2024 Mustang GT, donated by Ford Corporation. And Grapponi is paying to have the car wrapped, and if the board approves it, they will be getting the car soon for educational purposes. So I have in front of you that background of the program and the sticker price, which, although it has a value of over $5,000, it's probably worthless because it was waterlogged. That is why we're getting it.
Oh, gotcha. Doesn't drop.
Would anyone like to make a motion to accept the gift?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Robinson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Boucher. Is there discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion passes.
That is so cool.
Congratulations to the two students.
Yeah,
that's
that's
amazing.
That's wonderful.
Nice.
Done.
They're gonna have a celebration and hoping to bring the kids back after they get this all processed, so.
That's cool.
We will let you know.
Hopefully they'll drive the car down.
It's waterlogged. It
Yeah,
don't run.
I hope that
Could
they're
run.
running.
After they fix it.
After they fix it,
Yes.
yes.
That's pretty rad.
Okay. So the auditors are still doing their work, but they have completed the audit on the year-end balance, which you needed for this FY '25 budget, $2.8 million. You have a little over $3.379 million. Forget that unaudited, I forgot that one, sorry. So there's an extra $579,941 to the Finance Committee. We had proposed taking that overage and putting into the Special Education Trust Fund due to the expenses that we're seeing. And if it winds up having to be needed, we'll let you know. So that is that component. And then second, which I put on there, there's a handout in front of you that you can take with you that shows you the expenses and revenues and where things ended up for the year. And that number that I mentioned, that $3,379,942 is in the blue box.
Oh, yeah.
On that number. So that is that. And if you have questions or at a future finance meeting you want to discuss it, we can go through it.
The tuition overage, was that mostly VOC or was it higher for Deerfield as well and others?
Both, yep.
Both, okay.
Jack, wasn't this reviewed by the Finance Committee?
No, we did not have this yet. I
Oh,
had a
this part
slide
you
in there
didn't have.
saying that
Okay.
this was coming. So I figured I'd hand it out so you at least had it, and then we can give you more detail. I don't have all the background and detail to it, but I might know some of the stuff offhand.
Is that Medicaid shortfall just because they are slow in reimbursement?
Yes.
That's what I figured.
And you know what's interesting, what happens is that it might have been associated for this year, but anything that comes in late will be moved over to the next year. So
Yeah.
it's not like we lose the money, it just.
But it's not like you have it when you
You can
need
go back
Right.
12 months.
Yeah.
So
So-
It's a little frustrating on the delays,
Yeah.
but we know that we don't lose it. I guess that's my point.
Yeah.
So we don't book this as revenue that we're still expecting, we book it as cash receivables for the next,
We book it when it comes in.
book it when it comes in.
As it comes in, we book it.
Jack, I need a little more explanation about this, I'm sorry.
Sure.
It's not, I don't, what does this,
So on the left side is the revenues. If you look under that first column for 23-24 and the budget that you approved last October 25th, that shows you what you budgeted for revenue. The middle column shows what that, whether it was to the good of that number or less than that number, and then what the final number was. That's on the revenue side on the left. And then on the right side is the expenses. Again, what we budgeted on that first column, how much we were over or under in the middle column, and what the final number was in the right column.
so we have an extra 3,379,000?
Correct. And 2.8 million you had already anticipated in this budget that you were going to be over.
Okay.
So in the end, you have 579,942.
And that is what
And
we want
that's
to
the-
put into the special ed?
Correct.
And does that help special ed in its entirety, or do we still have other things we need to do to make sure they have what they need?
You'll see that in the next proposal.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
we're reallocating funds. Overall, your appropriation is going up by this amount because we have to appropriate it.
Yeah.
But we're not affecting anything else.
Okay, thank you for that
Basically, it's,
explanation.
okay? So if I go into the FY '25 budget, this is the budget that you had approved in March. The bottom line number was 107,910,191 for the general fund only, okay? Or a 1.58% increase. The adjustments that we need to make to this budget are in trash, water and sewer, the custodial wages, if you remember the interim bargaining session that we did last year that was approved in, I believe it was May. Transfer to the Facilities and Renovation Trust Fund to make the 5% contribution. We are lowering the bond payment that was going to be paid for the HVAC because that first payment was $395,390, not the full amount that we had budgeted, which was $1,924,000, because that was an estimate. Then I
And
have-
just to clarify,
Yeah.
we are not deferring a payment, it's not due.
Correct. They had asked me, do you want to wait a
Well,
whole
because the monitor
year?
reported we were deferring a payment, so I just wanted to make sure we're
No.
not deferring a payment, it's just
No,
when it's due.
typically,
Yeah.
when we bond, the first year payment is just interest, and then the second year, because they soften you into it.
Yeah, yeah.
When they had give it to me, they gave it to me paying it all in 1 year, and it is cheaper this way, because I'm at least paying, I don't have to wait a whole year to pay it.
Yeah, yeah.
So we paid the interest payment, and that's the $395,390. Next budget, you'll see the full complement, which is like 1,822,000, okay? So it'll go up like 1.4 million, but no, we didn't defer anything. It was
Okay,
just
cool.
less interest you'll pay over time, so,
Okay.
okay? And then, student services is the 584,325. We're taking some of that reallocation to put into the contracted services. So that, Brendan, to your point, that's the other portion.
Okay.
In trying to mitigate what those out-of-districts are, the contracted service, the nursing services,
Yeah.
okay? So the net effect is 0. For those on the finance committee, you remember what that number was?
It was 15,000.
That is correct, not anymore,
I asked him to find the 15,000
okay?
repeatedly. All right.
Yes.
Jack,
So,
he did it. The
Net
man
effect,
does it.
0. And then there's where some things that we don't control that are a little challenging. So the adequacy is coming in short 590,000. Deerfield tuition, we budgeted at 160 students. We have currently 149. So that's a shortage of 204,000. And then these two other items came in within the last week. And again, the adequacy, special ed, and differential aid, if we don't adjust these, the Department of Revenue is going to adjust them for us.
Right.
So we'd rather
Right.
adjust them and then show you this is what they're going to be.
Yeah.
So the special ed aid, we're getting 66% of our entitlement. So it winds up being about 55,000 short. And then differential aid, we're getting 38,000 more than we budgeted. Okay? So that total revenue adjustment is $812,163.
So,
It's the New Hampshire way.
I was gonna say, I just wanna make sure I understand this.
Right.
We have 200 additional special ed students, and we're getting less money than we budgeted for without them?
This is the prior year. Everything's in arrears.
It's in the rear, so it's not this year, it's last year.
Correct. Plus, they always tell you what your entitlement is, and then they give you, whatever your percentage is, they usually give you a percentage of that.
This
They
is
don't pay their
This is
full entitlement.
catastrophic aid.
Right. I should have probably put catastrophic aid instead of special ed aid, because they
But
renamed it.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
66
I
is
will have the
lower
minutes
than it
reflect
has
that.
been, because it has been higher the
Yeah.
last few years. So that, when we got it, I was surprised by this, only the 66%.
When
Think
they were
about it.
flush with cash because of COVID.
When you say it's less, they
percentage.
decreased the percentage for this year.
Yeah, it's
Are-
down.
Is it,
So there's.
is that predetermined? Like, have they planned out, or do we find
That's
out
how
newly
they,
every
no,
year?
the state determines that.
Every single year?
So
They said it.
they have a pool. They budget a pool of money,
Mm-hmm.
and then whatever the claims are,
Is that the education trust fund?
the catastrophic aid.
Oh, the catastrophic.
Then they
Right.
give a percentage
Thank you for
of
that.
that.
Cool.
Then I think
No
we
taxes, no
should-
services.
And it makes sense when you
Anticipate
think about it, what PM said, because with the
Percentages.
numbers of students increasing in terms of needing special education services, so all of the information coming from the districts across the state is
Yeah.
being submitted, they have a larger amount of money to pay out. They don't have as much, right?
Right.
So they use a percentage and they lower it, so everybody gets something, so that's what happens.
So they just don't pay what
They never
they
have.
cost. No, they haven't ever
They
done
never
that. It's,
have
never
paid what
been
it costs to
100%,
educate a
I don't
child.
think. Never.
Yeah.
Well, remember, at the federal level,
Sounds
too,
good,
our
but-
federal money, our IDA is never fully funded. You know, they promised that we would be 40% of, you know, what was due for us, and it never reaches that point. We're around 20%, 25%. So we don't get even the full amount from the feds, and they try every year to increase that amount, and it just never makes it through the budget process.
But
Just to,
I was gonna say, but just to be clear, we still do all of the services for our students.
Regardless of where it comes from.
And that's why you have what John shared with you at the last meeting.
and catastrophic aid doesn't kick in until after $60,000 worth of costs. And I think it was at the finance meeting, Jack showed us a chart for 27 charter school students that we provide special education services to. And I'm not picking on the charter school student, they deserve the services. But we spend $300,000 and we get reimbursed like $60,000
Yeah.
by the state from that. Under like the regular education formula, we get the special education portion. Just the gap of what is required to give them an adequate education and what they provide.
Charter schools get more base adequacy aid than public schools now too.
Yeah. So,
And then that last section, again, I'm just repeating, this is the FY '24 year-end balance, and we're looking to you to appropriate it. There's no tax impact from appropriating that, it just doesn't lower it. But this is the money we're proposing you put into your
Do you have a
special
motion
education
you'd like
trust
us to
fund.
read?
Oh, yeah, I'm almost done.
Okay.
Yeah. Some things just to be aware of, that we mentioned to the finance committee, dental. So right now, we're running about $88,000 a month, which if on a 12-month run, that'd be $1,056,000, and we budgeted $856,000. You have a health risk reserve, so I'm not worried about it right now. Let's see where things go. Electric, we budgeted across the district $1.15 million. And I don't know how the broken ground in the new Beaver Meadow HVAC equipment is gonna run.
Right.
You know, now that we have dehumidified air, I expect it to, but I don't think we need it tonight. But we're gonna keep an eye on that, okay? And then the culvert up at the high school, I think it's been in front of the facilities committee, and it was part of the summer project. So I left some of those slides in there.
Oh,
This is the Bow
perfect.
Brook that runs.
Yep.
I think I'm trying to orient myself. This is, I think, Westbourne here, and then this
Yep.
is Warren. So they've pulled photos from 1996 from the contractor and have ran cameras all down this. So Matt will have more information on that. And I think he's gonna have a couple different options for you as part of a capital facilities, CIP, and where to go. But they're still digging into this.
Right, but Matt's done an incredible job
pun
working with
intended.
city engineers, calling people that worked on the project back in the early 90s. He's done an incredible job, and he's shared with us some alternative solutions to this that aren't gonna cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So kudos to Matt on this one.
When
Yes.
they built that
Thank you,
addition,
Matt.
they had to get really creative around the brook.
Right, I
because it
saw
was-
those creative pictures, and
I remember.
So to be clear, this is the creek that runs under our high school.
that's right.
This is our own personal sinkhole. Can we name
Could be a
it?
trout
Can we have a fundraiser where we name the sinkhole?
We could have-
Yes.
we could have
The Matt
contest.
Cashman.
So I'm just gonna
Sinky
speak through
McSinkle.
those, just a reminder.
Yes, please.
So,
right.
in summary, for the FY '25 budget, just showing you, again, we're gonna keep the expenditure appropriation is only changing by the amount we need to appropriate from that extra unassigned fund balance. There's that 579,942, that's my third time. We're not gonna change anything in the revenue, stuff will adjust. What we had budgeted was to be a total of $15.62 or 44 cents or 2.9% increase. After the valuation came in, it looks like it's gonna be either 15.54 or 15.53. 35 cents, 36 cents, 2.31 or 2.37% will be the impact. Okay, we're just trying to make sure.
Because we're making up for $800,000 in lost revenue. Even though we're not adjusting the budget, we are,
It's shifting out of the state money that we would've gotten revenue and moving to the local. That's correct,
Yeah, okay. I mean, what choice do we have?
right. Yeah, you either cut your 800,000 to get to it, or,
Yeah.
or
Move
this.
things around.
But it kind of works within your,
No, I can't.
your budget. Looking at the history for the last 10 years, this shows you the local rate has averaged 2.09% for the last 10 years. The state has gone down 2.89, but combined 1.21% increases in the tax rate on average. Okay?
Are those negative percentages a reflection? No.
it was when they played the game with the statewide property tax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. There it is.
Because there you see it goes down and then it goes up.
Yeah, exactly. Oops, we made a
One
mistake.
shot money, yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to show you
Around
that.
election time.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then I'll move on to 26. I figured I had about 20
Could you
minutes.
just go back for a
Yeah,
while?
yeah, sure, yeah.
So what, we had estimated 0.25% real growth?
I estimated 15 million or 0.33, and it came in at 2.03 at 95 million. So when I do the estimate, I use an estimate based on real growth, meaning new property that's being taxed. This number I'm giving you is real and market, and I don't know that breakdown. We won't know that for another couple weeks.
Yeah.
Oh,
until
so it's
they-
both, okay.
Okay.
So that's why I can't say, oh, well, it's gone up that much, so we can go more. No, I don't know what portion is what.
Yep.
So, okay. If I just move on to, as we prepare for 26, just some highlights. We have negotiations with one group next year. That's the teacher group. New Hampshire Retirement has published its rates for next year. I think the legislature has some impact on that. That's why I put it also under the state, New Hampshire Retirement. Whether that means they go along with that rate or they do something.
They
who
can't
knows?
reject the rate,
Yeah.
they can provide funding.
Yeah, that's why I put it in both. But you know, health insurance, and again, you look at the third largest budget item is New Hampshire Retirement. The second is health insurance. Health insurance will probably be a double-digit increase. The HVAC bus bond, this will be the second year of payments, but this will be principal and interest. This year is just interest. Then, if there's no delays due to the site, there could be a potential middle school project bond. Maybe, maybe not. Utilities, electric and natural gas, we'll see where that goes. We just renewed our natural gas for 1 year, and next December, our electric is up. So, then the building maintenance, snow removal and grounds, we'll see where that goes. Curriculum instruction and assessment, we'll see how that budget comes in this year. And then obviously student service costs as it relates to contracted service, out-of-district placements, and then the tuition agreement for Deerfield. We've recalculated that, so we'll see where that comes in and if there's any others. Obviously, the city side, they have their budget. They start their process after we're done. It is a biannual budget this year, so we'll see what the state does. Maybe they'll be gifty and give us some more adequacy money or change the formula. Or I know you're all
Or maybe
holding
they
your
will
breath
lose the
now,
lawsuit.
but,
Yeah, exactly.
New Hampshire retirement, and then you got the Medicaid reimbursement. John mentioned at that meeting that they're making adjustments to the Medicaid reimbursement at the finance meeting, if you remember. So we'll have more on that. That's all I can think of at the moment.
Thank you, Jack, for your hard work.
And we are starting the process. We have a calendar for internal, starting in November with all the staff here and departments, and then in December, we'll be meeting with all the principals. We have already scheduled those meetings and sit down with them and go through the budget. And we're trying to prepare it a little bit differently than we have in the past. You know, we've always done these presentations, and we're really going to try to focus on each of the big areas, like the 1100, which is all the instruction, 1200 special ed,
Nice.
1400 athletics. You know, so we'll break it down a little bit more for you, and we're going to change up the presentation a little bit. And I think that's something that you wanted too.
Mr. Richards?
No, I just wanted to thank Mr. Dunn and the superintendent and the board, actually. That is, am I correct? I have to remember 1.58% increase in a budget during a time when inflation is 3.6, well, over 3.5%. So appreciate the efforts of everyone and all the folks to keep that below the rate of inflation, especially given the fact that 78% or 9% of our budget is salaries and benefits. That's appreciate that. That's what the board directed to you to do, and I appreciate the efforts you made.
Can you clarify, because we have 5 contracts this year that we're negotiating that will impact the 25-26 budget. When do we start, when are the teachers up?
Next fall, so they'll
So
affect
the
the 26 budget.
Okay.
They may affect your legal for next year's budget.
They might affect what?
Legal.
Oh,
But the
right.
salaries would be 26.
7, yeah, that's what I thought. I just want to clarify.
Okay. We did 26. Oh, public comment.
Seeing none?
Okay.
Tom, don't you stand up.
Sorry, Tom, do you have?
Tom, does Tom want to testify?
No, I think he's here as our treasurer. Yes.
I mean,
Yes, for sure, but
Yes.
also,
And
don't say
So this is the updated motion. The changes obviously are these numbers, and then obviously we have your facilities and renovation trust fund change. That's 2.3 instead of 1.5, and then adding, there's that amount that we're gonna take the savings, put it in the special ed fund. Other than that, I think it counts for all, and then I'll talk about that last line when you're all done.
Okay, I move.
Go for it.
Y'all ready?
Go ahead.
I move that the school board vote to approve 2024-2025 fiscal year budget with all funds totaling $116,675,984 with a general fund
$657,984.
Did I say that wrong?
You flipped the 5
Oh,
and the
I
7.
apologize. I do that sometimes. With a general fund budget of $108,490,133, appropriating $66,892,849 in local taxes and $7,093,067 in state taxes, inclusive of the following deposits and withdrawals to existing funds or expendable trust funds as presented by Jack Dunn here on this slide. In addition, the board authorizes the administration to adjust the budget to reflect the intent of the board vote. The board is aware that there may be a tax rate penny rounding adjustment to the budget once everything is uploaded to the NHDRA, or the Department of Revenue Administration.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Higgins. Discussion.
I just want to say that I think it's a, prudent measure to put that 579,942 into the special education trust fund, seeing not only the trend here in our school district, but what has occurred in all of the neighboring school districts, not only last year, but what is expected in the coming year. So I support this motion.
Further discussion, Ms. Meeker?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what Mr. Richards said and also make a point that I'm so glad we're preparing for what's coming. And I want to make sure that people understand that this is, when we talk about the cost burden of these services, we're not really calling it a burden. It was referred to as a burden in a recent article in the paper, and I think it's really important to note that we're just talking about budget and cost, and I don't think anybody here considers these essential services to be a burden on this district, and I'm so glad that we're advocating for and saving for what's coming in the future.
Well said.
Very well said. Ms. Higgins?
I also would like to acknowledge, mostly for people listening, we often as a board get criticism for not immediately giving surplus money back to the taxpayers, which something like this would be, half a penny a taxpayer. It's not much money. But your willingness to be creative and figure out where money should go and where do we need to put it keeps us from having spikes, like all of a sudden a super high, maybe we'd have a really low year, but it would be lost 12 months later when we have to now pay for things that we didn't budget for. And so this is just a really good example of that. So I'd just like to point that out when people get cranky.
Good call.
I agree with that as well. I did want to just bring up something we discussed at the Finance Committee that we asked the administration to look at in how we can get together with our neighboring communities in the spring, probably after they finish their budgets and town and school meetings, thinking about capacity, to talk about how we might be able to share some of these costs more creatively around transportation and student services, and then it might be a good staff level, but then also a school board level forum that we can host and think about ways that we can look at these costs on a regional level, especially the transportation when we're going back and forth between each other's communities.
Yeah.
Because these costs right now aren't going down. If the city manages to build more affordable housing, hopefully that will address one part of our transportation cost issues, but not all of them.
It can't happen fast enough. Is this a roll call vote?
It should be.
Yes,
Oh.
because we need 7 votes, so.
Okay, cool. Thank you for.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Meeker, will you call the roll?
Ms. Boucher,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Ms. Hastings,
Yes.
Ms. Higgins,
Yes.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson,
Yes.
Ms. Walsh,
Yes.
and I am a yes, 8, with 1 absent. The motion passes.
Any further discussion, agenda items for this evening?
Just signatures.
Yes, before you leave, everyone needs to sign this.
Okay.
Okay, I will take a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Robinson,
Second.
second by Ms. Boucher. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Please use the special blue
guys-
pen.
A half hour.
We did it.
Huh?